welcome to this episode of Retinal Realities to celebrate International Yoga Day, and brought to you once again by Roche Products. This episode is hosted by Sonia, and our special guest today actually needs no introduction. Besides being everything that she is to Retina South Africa, including being head of science, Claudette herself has retinitis pigmentosa, and she is a yoga instructor. Without further ado then, Sonia, over to you.
Thank you, Karen, for that introduction. To our listeners, welcome to our special International Yoga Day podcast. Today, we are honored to share a truly inspiring story of resilience, transformation, and inner strength. Yoga is not just a practice, it's a profound journey of self-discovery and healing. This journey is especially significant for our guest, a remarkable yoga teacher who has faced the challenges related to retina pigmentosa, a condition that has gradually taken her vision but never her spirit. Through the art and discipline of yoga and mindfulness, she has found a sanctuary of peace, a source of unwavering strength, and a pathway of acceptance and joy. Join us as we delve into her extraordinary journey, exploring how yoga has not only grounded her, but also empowered her to embrace life with a courageous and positive attitude. Today, we celebrate the transformative power of yoga and the determined human spirit, exemplified by our guest's incredible story. Welcome, Claudette Medefindt.
Thank you so much, Sonia. And that is such a kind introduction to someone who really just takes one day at a time.
So, Claudette, let's kick off with some questions. Can you share your journey with retinitis pigmentosa and how it led you to discovering the art of yoga?
Thank you so much, Sonia. Well, actually, mine is a very simple journey, We have retinitis pigmentosa, the dominant form in our family. And from a young child, we always had multi-generations of people at different ages and different stages of vision loss. So we kind of grew up with accepting vision loss as the norm, believe it or not. And we were a very sporty family. We always had a huge family and we always played games. We played cricket, we played ping pong, we did catch games, we did relays, we did all sorts of things. And it was just accepted in the family that some people, when it got dusk, didn't cope so well. And that meant we all had night vision loss. And I actually came to realize that sport was important, but vision loss was just something we accepted.
I guess that comes with having a family with a disorder. So strong genetics coming through, but not many people experience that, Claw. So to the next question, what was your first experience with yoga like? And how did it impact you on a personal level going through the journey of vision loss?
Well, as I said, we were always very sporty. So when I was at school, I ran. I found I could run very fast. So I did athletics. And when I got to high school, I discovered hockey. And I'm quite an assertive person, so hockey was an ideal sport for me to play because I really wasn't scared of the ball or scared of the stick. And I did hockey at school. I did very well. I got colours, etc. And even after school, I played club hockey. In the olden days, with the old dispensation of the provinces, I actually got my colours for under 21 Eastern, then Transvaal. So I did well. But by the age of 23, I actually wasn't selected for the first team because my vision had deteriorated. Because with retinitis pigmentosa, although you maintain sometimes, like I have, quite good central vision, I was losing my peripheral vision and I didn't see the ball coming across my field of vision. So I missed a lot of it. And I'm not a second team player, as you probably know. And I had to give up hockey, which broke my heart. And then my sister actually dragged me off to a yoga lesson. And I thought, oh, really? People sitting there chanting, what am I going to do with that? And I was so pleasantly surprised at just how physical and how challenging and how rewarding yoga could be. So I really just took to it with open heart and open arms.
Wow, I like that you say that you're not a second team player, Claude. Very much to your perfectionist personality. So then, what impact would you say yoga has on your general health and more especially for your vision, considering that we live in a world where we have to balance a high productivity environment as well as take care of our well-being?
Well, to understand the link between yoga and eye health, we first need to look briefly at vision and what aspects of general health impact on our vision. We know, for example, that oxidative stress is critical in the slowing or ameliorating the rate of degeneration. Oxidative stress is a huge impact today because every breath we take, everything we eat, everything we drink is full of free radicals, and that impacts greatly on our stress. So we need to look at overall. We know that, for example, stress has a very big impact because stress can impact your gut microbiome, your immune system, and of course, even the inflammatory process that we know has such a huge impact on not only inherited retinal degenerations, but also on age-related macular degenerations and the diabetic retinopathies. So we have to look at everything. And yoga is a holistic approach. It's not just physical exercises. It's actually a philosophy encompassing body and mind and spirit.
Most definitely. I was listening to one of Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist, one of his interviews, and he spoke about how important stress management is, especially because of the impact it has on the brain physically and the entire nervous system. So, you also mentioned stress, and losing your vision in itself is an extremely stressful situation that lasts for perhaps long periods of time. Are there any tips that you can provide for people to manage their stress?
Well, we are born with a stress fight or flight syndrome. We get it from our ancient past, where people needed to be able to react very quickly to times when they were in trouble, where they were threatened. They had to be able to run or stand and fight. So we have this built-in fight or flight syndrome built into our DNA, which is great. When you're finished running away from a big tiger or an angry elephant, you stop, you breathe, and your stress level, your cortisol levels and the adrenaline levels come back to normal. But we live now in a stressful society. Everything creates stress. If you're driving, every time you go onto the road, it's stressful. If you're not driving and you have to Uber, just waiting for an Uber and knowing, is he going to come on time? Is he going to pick up your guide dog, or is he going to refuse you your ride? Wherever you go, whatever you do today is stressful for people without vision loss, but more so with the vision loss. So having known that we've got this inbuilt stress fight or flight response, we have to find ways of actually ameliorating that stress. And one of the ways to do that, of course, is through yoga, through a complete mindfulness and stress management program. And yoga offers you that.
That is true. When we think of the word yoga, Claude, many other words come to mind, like meditation, breathing exercises, mindfulness, as you just mentioned, cold showers nowadays as well. But in particular to you, what specific aspects of yoga do you find most important?
I think yoga opens the door to the inner self. And I think that's important. And everybody finds a way to access that inner self. Personally, I would die if I had to get into a cold shower. So that's not for me. But just being aware of needing to break that stress cycle. And mindfulness is the first step. We talk about breath awareness, and that's good. Breath awareness is also a very easy way to start getting away from being outside of yourself and being inside of yourself. So even mindfulness in everyday things. I say to people who drive, how often do you get home? You stop your car and you wonder, how did I get here? They don't recall the journey of actually driving home. Or what happens to many of us, when you get into bed, you think, did I brush my teeth? You don't remember it. You didn't do it mindfully. So what you need to start doing is bringing mindfulness into just 2 or 3 times a day. saying, I'm not going to do this subconsciously. I'm going to activate my mind and be aware, be in this moment of whatever it is I'm doing. So that simple mindfulness is the start. And of course, the breathing is very, very important because that does take you into a state of detachment. You know, the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive part of the brain, right in the front of your forehead, between your eyes, is the prefrontal cortex. That is where all your sensations and all your thoughts from all the visual cortex and the hearing cortex are all assimilated, brought into this prefrontal cortex, which makes an executive decision. Do you run? Do you fight? Do you love? Do you smile? Do you laugh? That is only capable of one single thought at a time. And we now have control through repetition, through mantra, through affirmations of controlling what goes into that prefrontal cortex. We don't have to react instinctively.
Most definitely. When you speak about breath, I once read an interesting book called Just Breathe by Dan Brule. And he also emphasized that taking a pause or just making a pause in this busyness can have such a profound impact in how we make decisions and various other things related to stress. So I do think that taking a break and just taking a deep breath sometime can do wondrous things for the body and for the mind. So, Chloe, can you mention a particular moment that you remember when mindfulness made a huge impact on you or your life or a particular situation?
Well, it's not really yoga related, but it's all part of this mindfulness program. I once did a course on neuro-linguistic programming, and that's a wonderful way of actually getting in touch with how you can actually program your mind. And it was just a weekend course, and we actually ended the course with a fire walk. And I really thought I would never be able to do that. And we just did a fire walk with a simple mantra, and we walked on fire. And I had said to the instructor, I don't see in the dark because I've got retinitis pigmentosa, and this was dark. And how would I stay on this bed of hot coals without wandering off? And he said, don't worry, I'll walk with you. But when it came to my turn, he wasn't there. And they all say, go, and you go. And I walked halfway along and I thought, oh, I'm looking down. And he told us, if we look down, we'll burn. And at that moment, I felt a slight burn. But I walked to the end saying my mantra, and I had one little tiny blister on my toe. But the lady behind me in the queue was sobbing, saying, I'm going to burn, I'm going to burn. And she walked saying, I'm going to burn. And of course she burnt. Her feet were just covered in blisters. And that, to walk on fire and realize what powerful control you have over your body's reaction to something as extreme as 750 degrees heated coals is very empowering and illuminating, because you realize the power of your mind is immense. And as they say, completely untapped.
Wow. That's a story to put down on the books. Very inspiring story. And I guess illustrating that mindset is really everything. So, Chloe, apart from being a yoga instructor, you're also a patient counselor. How has yoga influenced you in your dealings with newly diagnosed patients with vision loss?
You know, that is such an important question. I was luckily a yoga teacher before I became a counselor, but as the years have progressed, I realized that actually everybody has a story, and everybody's story is very, very important to them. And what we need to do through compassion, through gratitude, and by listening, we can actually touch people at a very deep personal, spiritual level. And really, a lot of people who are going through vision loss just want someone to listen to them. For example, if you look at a picture, if anyone looks at a picture that says retinitis pigmentosa means peripheral vision loss, and they depict a picture of a little face or something in the middle of our tunnel vision, and it's black all around. Well, it's not black all around. We don't see black. We just have huge missing chunks of vision. And I know people with central vision loss. They also depict a black spot in the middle of the visual picture, and then a very clear picture all around. And people who have got central vision loss, no, it's not like that at all. Your vision is very patchy. Your mind tries to put together until you eventually end up with a very scrambled picture. So even the researchers don't listen to us. And I think if you can just stop and listen, and that is something that Retina South Africa does through its counselors, through our social workers, is we do listen to people with vision loss of every kind and sort and try to fulfill their needs. What is it that they need to help them through this journey? And that's what we offer at Retina South Africa, an open heart and open ears.
I must say, I definitely agree with that when I think back about my first interaction with you and the empathy and the care and just the pure love that you offered me. Definitely, I resonate with what you just said. Claude, when you think of yoga, there's so many different names to it, so many different techniques, and sometimes it becomes overwhelming when someone sits down and says, okay, maybe I should go on the journey of yoga or decide on an art or a discipline I should take on. So perhaps can you just share something simple, a simple technique with us to break the stress cycle?
Well, I think talking about yoga, I think people will find a yoga teacher that resonates with them and don't settle for less. If you start a yoga class, most yoga teachers will offer you a free lesson. And if they don't, that's already a sign that you shouldn't be there. And just go to a beginner's class and sit and try and just do as much as you can. You don't have to go for any of the really dynamic types of yoga. Just go simple, like hatha yoga, and let people just teach you the basics of simple postures and breathing and mindfulness. You don't have to go for the Ashtanga or the power yogas. Those are for the very young people with very good vision. But if I can share with people, just look after your general health, and we'll come back to that. Look after your gut microbiome, because we know it is involved in the inflammatory process, as we said. And perhaps I can tell people just now to sit while they're listening to this and close their eyes and put their left hand on their tummy and the right hand onto the chest. And remember, all yoga is done breathing through the nostrils. So I just want you to breathe in. And as you breathe in, just feel your left hand and your tummy move away from your spine, filling up with air and prana, the life force. And as you breathe out from the right hand from your heart. And that's just a simple technique. If you sit and do that quietly, breathing in, slowing the breath into the tummy, and breathing out from the right hand and the heart, also through the nostrils. That's the start. Just sitting and developing breath awareness. If you can start just by doing that, you have already broken that stress cycle, because as we said, your prefrontal cortex cannot think of two things at the same time. So if you want to add, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Already you have switched away from this hyper-excited, overstretched prefrontal cortex into just focusing on one thing at a time. And that's what we call mindfulness breathing.
Wow, Claude, that wasn't just simple, but simply beautiful. Thank you for that. Claude, coming to the end of the few questions we had, what advice would you give to someone who is facing a similar diagnosis and looking for ways to stay positive and courageous?
One of the first things I want to tell people is don't believe everything you see on the internet. Please go to a reputable organization like Retina South Africa, like Foundation Fighting Blindness.org, and go and find good advice, because you hear all sorts of things on the internet. And we know there are a lot of people running around selling stem cell treatments. These treatments are not ready yet. And if anybody's selling you a stem cell treatment, it's not a clinical trial, because you're not charged to go on a clinical trial. So be aware of some things you need to look out for. For example, sleep. You need least 8 hours of sleep, not only for your brain to become cleansed, which it does during deep sleep, but also for your photoreceptors to regenerate during deep sleep. You need to look at your diet, have a healthy diet. You need to make sure that you don't eat any processed foods. You need to give your gut microbiome at least 12 to 14 hours rest overnight. In other words, try and compress your eating time during the day so that you've got 14 hours for your gut microbiome to rest. Try some breathing. And really, if you really need help in trying to break the stress cycle, seek help. Find a yoga teacher, find a psychologist, find someone who's going to help you. And also when you eat, make sure that you have at least 30 different types of vegetables, nuts, legumes, and seeds that contain fiber. You need 30 a week. And that will produce enough short-chain fatty acids to actually feed your gut microbiome the right kind of foods. Because I heard a lovely saying the other day, if you don't feed your gut microbiome, it will eat you. And that's what it does. It starts to devour the inner lining between the gut and your immune system. So realize that your body will also help. If you keep your body healthy, it will help you to keep your vision healthy. So I want to say to people, if you need help and you feel you can't get it, please call Retina South Africa. You can find us via our website, www.retinasa.org.za, and we will help you and certainly guide you in this journey. And you know, we all have a journey. People all have drama. People all have difficulties. And we are fortunate that we know what our demons are, so we can actually take the first steps to controlling them and living a happy, fruitful, and dedicated life. By helping somebody else, you will help yourself.
Thank you, Claude. That was an extremely powerful final message. Thank you once again for sharing your journey and sharing your vast mountains of knowledge with us all. We truly appreciate you taking the time off to share this message and be an inspiration. Thank you, Claudette.
Thank you, Sonia.
And thank you to both of you from everyone who has been listening. And our final thanks, of course, go once again to Roche Products for making this series a possibility. And please remember to subscribe to the series by clicking on the subscribe button on this page. This will help to keep this very popular series going.